Felicitar a todos por el enorme compromiso que tenéis con el patrimonio, por vuestro gran conocimiento que nos trasladáis desde la provocación absoluta y necesaria de Léon, o emplazándonos de qué manera, ¿no? Stefanos, Polyzoides y nuestros colegas portugueses. Pero me gustaría preguntaros, aparte de esa maldición a la arquitectura clasicista, ¿creéis que tenemos un problema grave o no en cuanto a los profesionales que sepan llevar a cabo bien esa construcción clasicista por el manejo de los materiales, etcétera? Todo el mundo se especializa en la industrialización, como comentabas, de la arquitectura y todo viene prefabricado, ¿no? ¿Tenemos problemas graves en ese sentido? ¿Cuál es vuestra impresión, tu impresión, si me permites, Léon, en cuanto a Europa, al mundo en general, Stefanos en cuanto a América, América Latina, Estados Unidos, donde trabaja, vosotros en Portugal? No sé si la pregunta es muy amplia, pero me interesa muchísimo vuestra opinión.
I think the architects have to realize that they have to choose whether they are going to collaborate in the process of concentration of powers, financial, industrial, political, in the hands of very few who are going to dictate the shape of the world in hyperscale constructions, skyscrapers, ground scrapers, gigantic industrial sheds and so on, or support or rebuild small-scale industries, craftsmen, because we, for instance, in Poundbury, I'm master planner of Poundbury, which is the main project of the Prince of Wales, we chose from the beginning to have small builders, not more than 10 to 15 workers, because they are still, the head of the firm is still on site, like he was. No. And therefore, proposing small lots, building lots, because it can be done by very small enterprise. And if you employ a lot of independent craftsmen, you can have a colossal construction project done in the same time than if you choose the large scale, sometimes even quicker. Now, you have to think that the Grand Place in Brussels, which everyone considers as a masterpiece of European architecture, vernacular, monumental, was done in, I think, Maurice Culot, he published a book on it, had been totally destroyed by French artillery. It was the first time a town had been completely flattened by artillery. The project and all the buildings were done in something like a year. Because small enterprise, highly trained craftsmen are incredibly efficient. And the only real problem we had in Poundbury, in this Prince of Wales project, was because we had handed 2 blocks to a very large national house builder. It was disaster. Bad detailing, bad timing, poor building quality, whereas we continue with small builders. It's a political choice, and as architects, you have to choose. Are you going to support the global fiscal fraud, which is happening now, which concentrates the world wealth in the hands of 8 families or 10 families, or, is destroying Africa and South America and America and so on? Or whether you are supporting and designing for human scale, because that is the scale where Europe, all the cultures of the past which left anything behind which was worth looking at, they were built that way. And small scale does not mean mean scale. It's highly trained, independent craftsmen. That is what schools generally don't train anymore. We now train people to be dependent instead of being independent. No. And I think that's the craft. It's extraordinary, the Berlin Castle, for instance, or the buildings in Dresden. There's never a problem of craftsmanship. Because if you design that way, you find immediately the people who are able to do it. And then part of it is also done by, most of the stonework for the Berlin Castle is done by robots in a quarry near Dresden. Because it's now all on computer, and then they just finish the surface. But the slave labor part, that can be done by robots, but not the artistic thing, and that is what craftsmanship is about.
I think you might get the impression, for the ones of you who may not be architects in this room, that this suggests returning to the 16th century. I don't think we have to go that far for inspiration. I think the 19th century is really an example that we should heed. One of the tragedies of our recent past is that the 19th century has been absolutely demonized by Siam and the whole modernist enterprise. There is 57 in Sanchez in Spain. Barcelona is a city which you might admire or not, but nonetheless is only 150 years old, 160 years old. I mean, the recent past of Western civilization is completely embedded in these kinds of ideas we're talking about. Rome in the 19th century grew from 300,000 people in 1863 to 1.3 million people in 1922, and this was done in 2 generations in 4 or 5 six-story stone buildings, and it's a remarkable thing. 1 million people were housed in places designed very, very clear-mindedly within the Aurelian walls, in the historic city, and built by hand. So, in the meantime, in the United States, we built $1 billion worth of public housing, and we've demolished it as being useless already, every part of it. So you then have to ask the question also, which we didn't talk about today, what is sustainability, what is energy, what is material on top of what is art and what is civilized and humane as a way of building, as a way of living. So there are examples that are all over us. There are examples at grand scale. There are examples at medium scale, at small scale, along the entire range of urbanization, from villages to metropolitan centers. And I think one of the first things to do is to focus on where they are, how they were made, and to go after repeating those experiences.
Bueno, yo, por añadir, pienso que quizá a lo mejor mi profesión o mi experiencia como arqueólogo me condiciona, ¿no? Pero en los últimos años yo creo que estamos percibiendo de manera mucho más clara la ciudad histórica como un proceso. Y en ese proceso no podemos eludir, no podemos establecer hiatos, no debemos dejar vacíos, ¿no? Y en algunos momentos yo creo que lo que se ha producido es un cierto vacío, ¿no? La experiencia de la historia, yo no voy a hablar ahora de clasicismo, tú has preguntado por precisamente el clasicismo, pero de la historia debe ser vivida y la ciudad histórica tiene que ser percibida como un proceso dinámico en el que cada siglo, cada época ha dejado un legado, ¿no? Entonces, es como si hubiéramos en algunos momentos mirado solo una parte de ese legado. Hubiéramos mirado la ciudad histórica del siglo XX como si solo hubiera habido en ella arquitectura moderna. Y ha habido otra modernidad que se expresa a través del lenguaje clásico, de lo que se llama el clasicismo moderno o de otras cosas, ¿no? Y esa ciudad también existe, ¿no? Y es parte de la ciudad histórica, es parte de esos procesos, ¿no? Entonces yo creo que es importante, yo como profesor de Historia de la Arquitectura y del Urbanismo aquí en la escuela, creo que lo que es importante es que nuestros estudiantes, los futuros arquitectos, sean conscientes y sean capaces de hacer esa lectura integral de esos procesos urbanos, ¿no? En los que no se hagan omisiones, ¿no? Es decir, en los que nos acerquemos no solo al pasado más remoto y a la historia en el sentido más remoto, siempre pensando que la historia o lo clásico es un pasado muy remoto, ¿no? Con el que no tenemos ninguna conexión, sino que podamos acercarnos a un pasado a veces muy, muy inmediato, ¿no? En el que a veces el clasicismo puede ser usado, digamos, desde una perspectiva, vamos a llamarla ideológica, ¿no? O propagandística, que es lo que sucede, por ejemplo, con el estilo imperial en el periodo inmediatamente posterior a la Guerra Civil, y en el que arquitectos como Gutiérrez Soto, que habían practicado la arquitectura moderna durante los años 20, pues hacen el Ministerio del Aire en los años 40. Sin duda, esas paradojas se dan. Pero también hay muchísima arquitectura muy brillante hecha por esos mismos arquitectos, en esas claves clásicas o históricas, ¿no? Y una parte muy importante del patrimonio que incluso reconocemos como patrimonio es un patrimonio del siglo XX, es un patrimonio construido en los... Calam, no tengo que decírtelo a ti naturalmente, que impulsas esa colección, pero estamos sacando adelante una magnífica colección de patrimonio histórico iberoamericano donde estamos viendo cómo existe un legado, ¿no?, del colonial style o del Spanish colonial o del mission style en los Estados Unidos, ¿no? Y cómo, bueno, pues vemos la arquitectura, digamos, inspirada en el barroco de la Nueva España, y cómo eso se hace en San Diego, sin ningún complejo en el año 17 o en el año 19, ¿no? Bueno, pues aceptar todas esas facetas de la historia, verlas, estudiarlas y comprenderlas, es fundamental para nuestros estudiantes, para que no entiendan el clasicismo como una cosa que practicaba Fidias, ¿no?, sino que está mucho más cerca, ¿no? Y yo creo que como historiadores es la labor que tenemos, ¿no? Por lo menos yo es la que me propongo, ¿no? He querido llevarlo ahí, en mi condición, digo, como de arqueólogo historiador, la que hoy me corresponde aquí, ¿no?, un poco en esta mesa, pero no sé si contesta también un poco a tu pregunta.
Yo no puedo hablar portuñol. I must speak English, sorry. You know, humanity is built in basically the same way, like for 5,000 euros more, 10,000 euros, years, sorry, 5,000 years, in basically the same way. Then, in like 150 years ago, somebody invented Portland cement. And still, basically at the same time. And why? Because there are fossil fuels. The culprit for me is industrialization and the use of fossil fuels. We cannot make this much maligned reinforced concrete hormigón without fossil fuels. It's impossible. It's nearly impossible to produce it on an industrial scale because of the temperatures and the processes that are involved. That house I showed was in between, but if I had used artisanal tiles made on an oven, on a local oven, like the bricks in the arches, and if I had used the bricks in the walls, like the one, like also the same as the bricks in the arches, I could almost say that house was carbon neutral. The emissions from the artisanal ovens that produce the bricks and the tiles and the lime are carbon neutral in the sense that they are made, the process is made with vegetable fuels, not fossil fuels. The problem with carbon emissions is not when we burn wood, is when we burn gasoline or oil or fossil carbon. From an ecological construction point of view, fossil fuels is the problem. Lime, even when we burn limestone, we emit, besides the CO2 we produce burning the fuel, the vegetable fuel or fossil fuel, whatever, we also emit CO2 from the stone itself. But lime reabsorbs in the process of carbonation, I think you said that, yes? It reabsorbs the CO2 it has emitted when it was made. Concrete never reabsorbs it. When concrete somehow reabsorbs part of it, it disintegrates. It's not a novelty that concrete buildings will last a few decades, maybe a little bit more, but besides that, their safety time. So this is, for me, this is a process that is intrinsically associated with industrialization of the whole society, and particularly with modes of construction and systems, industrial systems of construction. Sorry for my bad vocabulary. You want to speak?
Bueno, gracias a todos. Siento tener que cortar aquí porque estoy disfrutando mucho con todo, pero tenemos que parar y continuar mañana por la mañana con conferencias estupendas también. Espero que nos volvamos a ver todos en esta sala mañana y que disfrutéis también de la jornada de mañana. Muchas gracias a todos.